How do you assess founders and where you want to invest in?
I'm not good at it. I come from the world where I have more respect for product people than for marketing people.
We have a very special founder here with us, Mithun Sacheti, founder of CaratLane. To date, has the largest exit in consumer. Tada's bottom out at above a $2 billion valuation. But the more interesting thing is he had built a business of over 3,000 crores on the back of less than 400 crores of capital raised. So as you know, we obsess about capital efficiency, and Mithun is in the top 0.1% on that metric. To top that all, Mithun has also gone on record saying that of the 400 crores that he raised, about 200 went into mistakes. So, which effectively means that he just needed 200 crores to build a 3,000 crore brand. So we will unpack that today. So what was the open space, the unaddressed customer pain point that you saw when you started out?
I don't think I had that much clarity when I began. I would be lying to say that I knew everything about it. I began with this idea that there's Blue Nile in America and we want to build something similar to that in India. The pain point really was that we didn't have money to put that kind of inventory, and the stores in India were getting larger and larger. I thought the Blue Nile model was great to try and build in India as well also. So that's really where we began. But like a whole bunch of pivots which are India specific happened as time went by, and the Blue Nile model became irrelevant by the time we sort of got out of this whole thing. But really, in the beginning, it was just about saying, how do I build a large business in the industry that I know? And that's about it, really. I don't think I had that much clarity.
Fair enough. And for those who are not familiar with Blue Nile, what really inspired you about Blue Nile?
You know, it was a inventory-free model, and I think that's the part that I really enjoyed about it. Biggest bane in most, whether you call it jewelry, watches, any higher value businesses, is the fact that your working capital cycles are very poor, and then impacts your return on capital and everything else, so and so forth as well also. Blue Nile had kept the ethos of the business, but had flipped the business. So instead of inventory, it became a marketing company. But you were not buying another person's brand. You were only buying Blue Nile as the brand. So it was into selling engagement rings, and that business was built around that and went on to about $500 million in revenue or 400 million in revenue, and listed on NASDAQ, and then the founder left.
Was there a customer angle, any customer pain point or customer demand that was unaddressed by the incumbents?
Not on day one, but 2 years into the business, you sort of understand a lot more about where you are, who you're dealing with, what's going on. And I think at that point, it became very clear. The reason these mistakes happened of spending that capital is because I didn't focus on the customer problems before. I focused on aping something was built in America and try and build that in India. The market's not ready for that in India. There was no desire for engagement ring to be sold, and people didn't care so much about buying that. But as we were in and talking to consumers and figuring what's going on, we realized that there was a different problem, and we had to pivot to that and try and solve for that. And the problem that we realized that all jewelry stores in India were designed to sell to the mother. They were not designed to sell to the daughter. The advertising was like that. The store layout was like that. Size of jewelry that you see over there was that as well also. And so we found our wedge in that, saying that there is this consumer who's now making a lot more money in the services sector, who would like to buy for themselves, but they don't have an opportunity to do that because the jewelry is available in the jewelry stores, but you have to go through the mother's jewelry by the time you reach the end of the store and find this other piece over there. So we became this everyday jewelry brand. Again, we can't take all the credit for it because there was Jilly by Gitanjali that originally started this whole thing out. And really, I think it was just about being tenacious and working more with the customer and figuring things out.
And now I want to come to, the metric that I spoke about, which is getting to 3,000 crores in the back of 400 crores of capital. That's like simply phenomenal. I think every consumer founder here, knows how hard it is to scale with limited capital. So if you were to distill like the top 3 reasons, or rather strategic calls that you took that helped you scale in such a capital efficient manner, that'll be like super useful for founders.
First, let me talk about why we raise so much money as well also. Today, if you raise 100 crores, 200 crores, it's not going to, it'll be like a column in a newspaper. But back in the day, it would be like a headline over there as well also. So I think we were enamored by the wrong things at that point. And so, which is why I ended up raising more money than we actually needed. Second was our investor was Tiger Global. One fundamental problem, I think all, especially Indian founders have this. We love to pander to our investors. We must look good to them. We want to be their favorite child. All of that stuff happens. Now think about my cohort of people who got invested at that time was Flipkart, Myntra, and there were another 8, 10, frankly, I can't remember right now, who possibly fell by the wayside. So I'm competing with horizontals, and I'm possibly the only vertical at at that point who was doing something over there. But I want to have that kind of growth rate. I want to have that kind of speed and trying to over deliver for that. And in trying to do all of that, I basically blew up a whole bunch of money. Till one day Lee Fixel and me sat down and he said, look, I don't know why you're in this, don't worry about it. You don't have to think about their business and think about yours. And so that was the moment at which I realized that this is not the way to build my business or what I'm doing. Then it finally came down to thinking about solving for the funnel, which we obsess about. And the funnel really became about top of the funnel. We were reasonably good. People had a lot of interest in what we were doing. In the mid funnel, we could improve our engagement with people. I think that was an opportunity that we could see. And at the bottom of the funnel, our conversion was pathetic. So we had to figure out what is it that's going to improve this bottom of the funnel conversion. And for that, till we don't do that, I don't think we should be advertising or doing anything extravagant at that point. So at the bottom of the funnel, first we started doing try at home. Try at home took us from, we realized that through talking to people and everything else, and we had like 70-80% conversion there. But it's a very inefficient channel. But for us, it was a big win in those days. The fact that people would see our jewelry and buy, and 80% would convert when it went to their house was a huge win. The problem with the channel is that you can only do 4 appointments a day. You're not able to do 50 appointments a day or 100 appointments a day. So you feel good about it, but it's not scalable. And that's not what we signed up for. The second thing is that we decided, okay, and now we all call it omni-channel. Back in the day, that word didn't exist. In the absence of that, we said, okay, we have so many people coming from Gurgaon who are looking at our jewelry and maybe we can drop a store there. Couldn't find a location, so we went to Delhi and we opened in GK1 market. The idea was right, but the store was a disaster because customer was sitting in Gurgaon and I opened the store in the market. And that's not my customer at all. And so we got that completely wrong. And so a whole bunch of money got wasted over there. The other problem in the store was, people would come also, like the ladies who would come across over there. I remember standing in the store and trying to tell her I had these touch screens, Microsoft Surface equivalent that we had imported, etc., and showing it to them on the screen that, see, this necklace is like this and this is like that. And I remember so clearly that lady telling me, "Beta, ye sab theek hai, par jewelry kahan hai?" And we had opened this experience center. We used to call them experience centers in those days. We were trying to do this. And it was just, I sat at home. I sat in the hotel that night and I could not sleep, just realizing what a blunder this was. How can you ever have conversion without having product sitting in front of the customer at all? Because they've done the browsing at home. They've showed up over here and we fundamentally missed this whole thing as well. So, and the only reason we got that was because that one statement from that lady. Otherwise, I was stupid enough to sit in the store and still not get it as well. Then we opened a store in Hyderabad with jewelry. But the problem in that was, and the cohort was right, because we were in that Jubilee Hills area, which is close enough to where all the electronic city, etc. is, or whatever it's called over there. The problem in the store was, the store was designed by somebody who designs conventional jewelry stores. Conventional jewelry pieces are much larger. Our jewelry is much, much smaller. So it's not visible in that store the way it should be visible as well. So I am killing my own jewelry by having very poor layout and everything else. So it did better, but didn't do as well. It was the third one, and each of these experiments takes six months, because we're not that open a store and just open 100 of them. We didn't have that courage, let me call it. So the third one we opened in Bangalore, which is in Phoenix Market City. And this time I was like, okay, I have to get this right. I can't get it wrong. So we did enough work, by the time, and this is really early days, guys. So everything I tell you is actually irrelevant in your life because Facebook was a thing in those days. And so we used that and we were basically really got that Whitefields area. We were like bombarding our advertising over there and doing everything we could. And we opened in this Phoenix Mall over there. It was a 280 square foot store. And, we had sent a key across to every single customer through our online channel itself. If you basically would like, and whoever we had targeted, and if they were interested, we sent a key across to all of them. That key allowed them to come to the store, and if the lock opened, they would win a 1 carat diamond for free. It was about connecting what's happening online to what can be done physically. And for 3 Sundays in a row, at least 2 or 3 times in the day, we had to pull the shutters down and not take any more people inside, because that was the kind of buzz that whole campaign had created over there. And that store, I think, at least till I was there, 280 square feet used to do 30 crores of revenue a year. And that just became the model for us to figure out that this is now we've cracked it. After that, it became very simple. You solve for pin code. Once you solve for traffic over there, you basically figure out where you need to drop a store. You drop a store over there. You have this promotion that you've created with some different promotions we would do. And then you have to make sure in month 1, your rent to revenue has to be 3%. I mean, average of the business of 4%. So 3% rent to revenue is your your target, you go with that and try and do it. If you have this sorted reasonably well, then I think your cost of money and everything else changes dramatically. So we ended up building that out, and in our 300 stores, we never shut a store after that. So I think that became very strong for us. The second thing is that we are very careful that we will open only that many stores as our cash flow allows us as well. So the first few years was about 10 stores, 10 stores, 10 stores, because that's as much cash as we were generating, and we were in this. And this I think came to me from my father, who would always tell me, you're a custodian of this, and this is generational. It'll keep going on. That's his thinking about how he thinks about business and everything. And so if you're a custodian of this, and by then I had diluted so much, we were down to, I think, like 32, 33% by then already. And we had diluted so much that he's like, what are you even doing? Like, who are you even working for as well? So at that point, we figured this cash flow out, and 10 stores, 10 stores, 10 stores, because that's what the cash flow could do. Now, because we have a critical mass, 25 stores became the next 2 years. More critical mass, 80 stores. After that, it's the same thing. You're basically using your own capital to grow this business, because we are not a winner takes all category. Whatever I do, money is not going to solve or build desire beyond a certain, it's just not that kind of business as well also. Plus, I'm not competing in a horizontal sector where only 1 or 2 people will survive. The largest fashion business in this country does not have a 5% market share. So there's really no reason for us to lose money, and that we had learned by then as well also. So this just became the way we operate. The other place that you really burn money is if your inventory turn is poor. And we were at 4 inventory turn and a metric called Jim Roy that we'd live and die with, and we were always above 100. So our return on capital was always above 100 on that one. So I think these basic rules were there. You had to run the business within that, and if you can run within that, you don't kill yourself. Like, I'd finish my work at 4:30 every day, go play badminton, do whatever I have to do. I don't die doing anything else, but because there are just these rules and we live by that.
Super. I think you covered a lot of stuff, and you touched upon a lot of things that we've highlighted in our Insurgent brand playbook over the years. But there's one other thing, which is a guzzler of capital, which is marketing. So it'll be good to just touch upon how we about allocating budgets to marketing.
Actually, most people get top of the funnel marketing right. They are able to create and generate enough desire for the brand. This country has an infrastructure problem. Whether we like it or not, fulfillment is a nightmare in this country, even today. I'm not even talking about like 15 years back where there was no infra. But even today, there's a lot of problems with fulfillment. Quick commerce solves for one type of category. But beyond that, there is still like 3.5-4% loss in Amazon packages, which is the best in class as well across on this. So where are we going to work with this? There's a channel trust deficit. That channel trust deficit will take a long time for us to overcome that part of it. We are not still solving sufficiently for mid and bottom of the funnel, which is where I feel like if you were to limit your marketing to areas where you can solve for the funnel as well, also for lower part of the funnel, I think it will help a lot. Like, we had a rule that till we are not 50 lakh customers, we will never go on television. What is the point of going on TV? It didn't make any sense whatsoever to us, because we just need that many customers. And let's say your brand requires 5 lakh customers. Do you really need to go beyond 2 cities? But we all love to go wide on this whole thing. So depending on the number of customers you need, you can contain marketing. And if you don't harness that power of digital, I think it's a lost opportunity.
And I know there are a few retail heavy founders in the room. So you mentioned rent to revenue of 3%. That's like unreal. The gold standard we have is 10%. I think you do well at that point. But beyond rent to revenue, are there any other metrics
don't look at rent to revenue, then look at rent to gross margin.
Yeah, GM.
Because that might give a better sense. We were a 35% gross margin business, and some of these businesses you talk about are like 70, 80, 90.
No, that's fair. But any other metrics that you look at in the offline channel?
Any other metric that you look at in an offline channel? First is where you open a location. I think you need to have a very strong playbook for that. So for us, it was 20 feet frontage is minimum, ability to have 2 car parks, never be next to a signal over there, like a whole bunch of rules like that we had. And those are all learnings over the years that we had created. Never worry about being the only shop in the area, because market is created around us as well also, right? Somebody starts off. So a whole bunch of rules like that.
Now I just want to touch upon building brand CaratLane. You technically operate in a category which is low frequency when it comes to purchases. And I know that you have a very interesting mental model in terms of how you think about customer lifecycle management and, catering to different occasions. So it'll be good to talk the room through that.
Actually, if you think about the highest frequency of a customer buying from any single brand, it is always low frequency as compared to the category. So take clothing, for example, and maybe men are a little more boring that way, but in a women's category, women love to go to many brands and shop. They are not married to only buying from one brand. This has been my experience. There are about 70% of women tend to go to many brands and do that. So what it means is that frequency is not solved by a single brand. Frequency is solved by a category. Customer buys a product more often. Buys jewelry also more often, but doesn't tend to buy from the same brand again and again as well. Now, the brand has done nothing really other than send coupons to say that you should buy more often from me as well also on that. This is a problem that sits with most brands. Now, if you make this your problem, and I've always believed this, most times in life, it is not the solution that matters. What matters is which problem have you picked up to solve. And so we picked up this problem and decided we want to solve. And we realized that we were relevant in people's lives only between the first anniversary and the 15th anniversary. The first anniversary to 15th anniversary, our job is to figure out every single possible occasion that people can potentially buy jewelry for. And we obsess about that and go and solve for that as well. So this is on the customer side. Now we need to know where is this customer in this life cycle? Is he in the first anniversary? Is in the third anniversary? Where is he joining into our brand as well? So that became a very important part for us. And then the entire digital marketing obsessed about knowing where they are and doing that. So give you some stat, like we know from data that 40% of Indians have a child between the third anniversary and fourth anniversary. It's just amazing that it's not like people discuss with each other, but it just happens. And they do this.
You're just helping the room see their future.
Yeah, and maybe my grandkids someday. So if you start looking at these patterns across, you'll realize that people have this as well. Now, what is our cohort of customers? Our cohort of customers are generally dual income homes. Almost 60% of people who were shopping at CaratLane were displaced people. They were not living in the city that they originally began to live in as well also. So that means they don't really have a family jeweler, and that's why people like us become easy target. Easy for us to target those customers. So if I now know that you had a child, now I need to know that you have had a child. So to know that you had a child, we made ear piercing free for people. So every weekend we do 1,000 ear piercings. So my point is not the ear piercing. My point is the data point that I know that you've had ear piercing. If you had ear piercing, I'll target from that point onwards. And I know when your third anniversary, your child is 3 years old, they're in this Peppa Pig zone as well also. So we're tied up with Peppa Pig and we built this entire, I don't know, now maybe 100 crore business around Peppa Pig earrings. And the first piece was to sell the earring to them. And you have to solve this through technology because the product we are making had to be sold at 3,000 or 4,000. It's not going to be like a 10,000 rupee jewelry that people are going to buy for that. So we've solved for that. Then you realize that now this is a very different audience. You spend time with these customers. Hari, you're one of those. You left Chennai and came to Bombay. Most people, what happens is, and I left Bombay and moved to Chennai. My closest friends now were parents of my classmates of my kids as well also. They became close. We started spending time together. All of this was happening together as well also. In families, you social proof for cousins, relatives, everybody else. You give expensive gifts to them. Here, you're social proofing to these people. So I want to look like a good gift giving close friend as well also. And so we made it this rule that for every person who bought these Peppa Pig earrings, our target was 5 giftable products can be created because they can look good to these other kids in the class as well also. And that's how you category create and make something happen out of thin air literally on that. I'm giving one example of something working that became a 100 crore line item for us from 12 SKUs. And it's a 55% gross margin business in my business. It's a very, very large number on that, right? Just to give you a sense, Tanishq operates at 22% gross margin. So that's the sort of, but lower ASP can sort of deliver all this for you. We tried this for 4th, 5th birthday, 6th birthday as well also. We did some, Doraemon and a whole bunch of people as well also and tried Chota Bheem and everything. Nothing worked. And you realize by talking to people after that people become super rational once they're 5 or 6 years old. When the minute the kid goes to school, all rationality kicks in. All irrationality goes out. So they're saying, hey, spend on books, spend on this thing, in between phase, all kinds of answers you get. Till our next win came for us on the 8th birthday of the child, 8, 9, 10, because their Harry Potter worked for us. And it's amazing how many people watch Harry Potter. North India is a Hindi speaking belt. It's not the same over here as well also. But that became another big win for us as well also. Once you get the data point, then third anniversary, fifth anniversary solitaire, you know how to go after that. 10th anniversary. The only screw up happens if two people are separated in between and you're still targeting for the wrong things at that point. Other than that, you can find all these moments, you can make all this happen, and you can create some business which other people are not doing enough. So if you work really hard with your customers, you will solve for frequency because the category has frequency. It's just that the brands don't have frequency.
No, it's interesting and it's very refreshing to the focus on data in everything you said, right? And that's something that I find very rare in consumer founders because they're very product obsessed, brand obsessed, but data is not something that comes naturally. So what would your advice be for founders in terms of, getting better at mining customer insights through data?
Just spend time with customers. I've never owned a computer in my life, so it's not even like something I understand. But I think mining is a terrible word for a consumer business. But quality time with customers tells you so much that, and just keep having conversations all the time. I think without agenda. The problem with the word mining or anything equivalent is that you're going with an agenda, and inciting is terrible to do with agenda. It just doesn't happen because that is this singular bias you're trying to fight. If you are going to put something in a search command, look at Google versus Instagram, right? The problem with Google is that you actually search for something. That's where you get your answer over there. Irrationality comes only in Instagram because you're browsing, and mindlessly scrolling, and you'll discover something new, and then you're going to do that. I think inciting is like mindless scrolling. You have to be like that. You have to spend time over there. It's just hours of great conversation and something will come out of it. You'll test it and you'll make things happen.
Now shift focus to, this year's edition for us is on founders mentality. So just want to touch upon that aspect in your journey. We've seen how founders have to reinvent themselves at different stages of the business. So if you could just talk through how your own evolution was in the 0 to 1, 1 to 100 and the journey beyond.
As a human also we evolve, and I think there's no different for any person as well also. The first bit is survival, really is survival, and there's nothing else to it as well. You just have to spend time to be able to make sure that whatever you're creating is of value to a certain small set of people, at least on that one. And I think all of the time goes away in that. Once you figure out product market acceptance, I wouldn't even call it fit at that point, some kind of product market acceptance over there, then it becomes about how do I now build scale around this? To build scale around something, I think the next phase of anybody is building a team. I think this is the hardest part. And you go through massive iteration. Ultimately, the final team or like the team structure that you'll have should have people who complement you, and secondly are better than you in most things that you are not good at least on that one. We often get this wrong, and I think this is where scale gets lost out, and it's a very expensive mistake as well also. It's not the salary, it is just the loss of time and the loss of effort that happens, and the effect of negativity in that room that comes by as well also. And so it took me, I think, almost 6-7 years by the time the team got formed, the core team, and then the core team just stayed for doing that part. But I think this is an underrated part of it, because first you deliver by yourself, then you start delivering through people, and then you start delivering through systems on that. And I think that's the process of scaling that needs to happen. And I think that's a shift in founder mentality that keeps happening. The word you like to use, founder mentality, but that's the shift that we need to have. But that's just also human growth as well also. You'll see our own behavior, tolerance, everything keep changing with that. And our ability to allow mistakes also increases with that as well. But I think what helped us, and I think it's very important at the start of every year, is to think of the 2 or 3 problems you really want to solve. Because if you figure out what problems you want to solve, and I didn't have this sorted out when I was running CaratLane for sure, but after CaratLane I went to work for Gopal Vittal as an intern over there for 3-4 months. And I have to tell you that at the end of every year, he would write this amazing letter about the year that went by and the year that's going to be there, and list out the priorities of that. And those priorities would align everybody across the organization beautifully and sort of make that happen. And now whatever I do, I make sure I write a lot about it. I think it is fundamentally important, if you call yourself founder and you have this founder mentality, then for the whole org to hear from you, what this year is it that we are going to focus on, and what we focused last year, where are we on that journey itself also. I think this open communication and sort of making that happen in a very meaningful manner, very deliberate manner, is very, very important, because your distance will keep increasing from people every year as it goes by. It's the nature of growth. I mean, the more you grow, the more distance between you and the last guy is going to keep increasing as well. if one has to build for today, I think what you're building is an inverted pyramid structure. Back in the day, there was a structure in which, corporates, I'm not saying in a negative manner, but the structure that really worked was there was a leader on top and problems went up and they solved from there. I think today the enablers are sitting on top, people are on top, and everybody from below is enabler. You should have nothing on your plate every day. The next guy should have nothing on their plate every day, and everything is happening in the front end because that's the hand that feeds us. Whether it's your factory, whether it is your store, whether it is your marketing team, all of those things. So I think it's really important to be able to create free time so that you're an enabler and not a discourser.
I particularly like the emphasis writing, and writing, is a great instrument to align people. But just talking about the team, I know you have a very interesting point of view. So explain the rationale.
Actually, it happened thanks to, a visit to Las Vegas, and I spent time with Tony Say, thanks to Tiger Global. So he had this method called holacracy. It was about work that you do, and it allowed people to come in and get out of work as well also. Because people go through these phases of life where they really want to focus on work, and then there are some phases where you burn out. You sort of want to recharge and come back, etc. I was not solving for recharge. If you are really good at what you do, there are two things that should matter. One is that you should be able to take on more, and the organization should be able to create more financial benefits for you. A precedent in this company could be anything else somewhere else. And I remember that the CEO of Burberry, she went to become vice president retail in Apple. And for me, it's like, if that can happen over there, what is the meaning of this title at all? And so I told everybody, boss, who you want to write CEO on LinkedIn, you go write CEO. I have no problem. Write whatever title you want to write. And once you're willing to give everything away on that part, then that conversation died over a period of time. It just became about what are you willing to do? We agree that you'll handle this. And accordingly, how do we compensate you more and more every year?
So what were like...
And 10-15% of people could not understand this thing and left us and went, and we were okay with it. Because ultimately, there's got to be some philosophy that binds all of you by. And the philosophy is you want to solve more for the customers, then this is a nonsense conversation, my opinion. But I respect the fact that many organizations are able to deal with this and able to solve for it. I just can't. And I didn't want to build it.
Fair enough. I think, this is a topic we can go on forever, but I'm conscious of time. The topic I want to touch upon was your decision to go with a strategic. I know founders in the room who have
There's
options.
a big strategic in the room.
There are many strategics in the room. How would you advise founders to think about raising from financial investors versus strategics? What are the considerations and how should one think through that?
I think there is no one size fits all kind of thing. It depends a lot on your energy and what are you trying to build as well. See, the brand is going to outlive every individual for sure, and that should be the aim. How much of your life you want to be with the brand is a very important time to think about. In my case, it didn't play out the way I wanted it to play out. But I think now it's very clear to me that if you align with the strategic on doing something, it means that the individual will exit at that point. That is just the definition of that. So you take money from a strategic only and only if you have a construct to exit. If you don't have a construct to exit, you should never take money from a strategic. I think is a fundamental part of this whole thing. If your desire is to scale, build at a faster pace, you're willing to take losses, do everything else like that, then take money only from financial investors and do this. And maybe not take losses, but I'm saying that take risk and sort of make that happen as well. And third, if you want to own it for perpetuity, want to do this, then delay fundraise as much as possible and keep building slowly and steadily till such point that any money that you raise will not mean in your exit itself also. So had I not made those 300 crores of blunders, I would have possibly been, still running the business and doing all of that. I had a misunderstanding that I thought that working with Tatas means I'll be a partner for life as well also, right? Because financial investors normally have a finite time period and they need to exit at that point. And I thought this is perpetuity capital, but not perpetuity ownership.
Now you also wear an investor hat. When you evaluate founders for investments, what is your framework? How do you assess founders and where you want to invest in?
I'm not good at it. I don't know.
That's fine. There's no right or wrong here. It's more, just sharing how you think about it.
For me, I think I look for product knowledge expertise in a very, very large manner. I want to see that part of it. I think most other talents around you can hire for, you can find partners for it and do everything else. I come from the world where I have more respect for product people than for marketing people. And so I look for people, want to get married to a category and sort of do that and stay with it for a long period of time because I want to be in a category for a very long period of time. Having said that, that's the kind of founder I look for. Because somebody who is able to see the next generation of a product than what is available in the market. For me, that is a very important part as well. If I can't see that, then it doesn't work for me. I'll give you one example, like Style Union. It's just a business that guy understands product better than everybody else. Rakesh Biani, and he's built some ridiculous growth and business and all of that. It's a lottery ticket for most people who are there in it, but the fact that that is the what I'd classify as something that went right for me.
Even in our experience, product capabilities are a great indicator of long-term prospect. Final question, which categories are you most excited about for the future?
You know, anything that doesn't really sell on a horizontal, I love those categories. I love categories which can own their own experience and try and sell from there. Things that can sell purely on their own website, things that can sell within their four walls. Those are the categories that I look for. But what I don't like is I don't like things that sell on quick commerce. I don't like things which are sold on Amazon, all of that, because, you know, they hold you by the balls. I mean, it's just, there's nothing there in it.
Thank you, Mithun.
Thank you.
It was an amazing conversation.